Morning. Hello. I wanted to talk in this video about something that I've been doing for about a year now, and that's listening to podcasts. I'm kind of addicted to them, certainly on my journeys to and from work. And I made the switch at the beginning of the year from listening to the radio or my own music to listening to podcasts, and I think once I got diagnosed, I realised listening to the radio in the morning was actually filling my head with a lot of confusion and buzz, and it was just kind of, no matter what radio station you listen to in the mornings, they all seem to be jacked up on coffee, like super happy and full of beans. And I don't know, no one gets out of bed in the morning like that. And I think it was almost kind of winding me up a little bit. So when I got to work, I was kind of like a little bit, already felt like I was like, how can I put it? I hadn't acclimatised from being asleep to going to work where I'm expected to be like, hit the ground running once I get at work. But I don't have to have that kind of feeling before I go to work and on my way to work. So I got a bit disillusioned with the radio, and I discovered podcasts. Oh yeah, they've been around for years, but I can't even remember why I started listening to a podcast. But I listen to them all the time now, and I kind of almost look at it along the lines of, I will listen to factual based podcasts, and I can learn something on my way into work or on my way home from work. But they act as a buffer between, as I said, getting out of bed and getting to work. They kind of like ease me into the day, and I can they kind of relax me, I suppose, where listening to loud, lively music in the morning and DJs that are going off on one and getting super excited about the tiniest little things doesn't make me feel relaxed. So what kind of podcasts do I like listening to? As I said, factual based ones. I listen to a lot of true crime ones, injustices, wrong imprisonment. Couple stand out for me. One's called Serial, which is in the third series now, and that I really connected with. Loved every minute of listening to those. Another one was called S-Town, which was like a factual based podcast that was telling the story of this small town in America that had this eccentric guy that was sick and tired of his town being so corrupt and being so fucked up, as he called it, and this journalist going down there and speaking to him and unravelling loads of different stuff that was going on. And it was just like, it's like the best TV series you could imagine, but on a podcast. So I really recommend S-Town. I really like that one. Another one is Up and Vanished. That's in its second series now, telling a story of a missing person from start to finish, interviewing all the family, all the investigating officers, talking to suspects, having Q&As, having phone-ins about it, theories, totally absorbing, and I really like that. A couple of other ones I listen to, obviously I'm going to listen to podcasts surrounding my special interests. So there's a podcast for just about everything on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. So I listened to a few photography ones. I did search for Aspergers and autism podcasts, and I've listened to quite a few, and I pretty much haven't connected with any of them, except for one. And the reason I connect with this one, it's called Them Aspergers, and it's two people, both of which are on the spectrum and have Asperger's. One has been diagnosed and one is in the process of being diagnosed, but it's like, you know, it's certain it's going to be a positive diagnosis. And they talk about their Asperger's. And they're very articulate. They're very good at expressing how I feel a lot of the time, and they raise awareness to me of things that I hadn't thought about, that then I go on to think about. And I've used that a couple of times now to do topics on these videos, and I think what I like about this podcast is they have Asperger's. Instantly I'm already on the same wavelength. They talk my language. A lot of the other ones on autism and Asperger's, quite fun, quite weirdly enough, the people that are presenting them or run them don't actually have Asperger's. And you can tell that straight away by they have all this loud, confusing intro music and that, and you think, you just don't get it, do you? You wouldn't have that on a podcast about Asperger's if you knew how irritating it is to hear that kind of music. So yeah, I would thoroughly recommend checking out Them Aspergers podcast. The main guy there, Nicky, he had a late diagnosis in his, I think his mid-20s, early 20s. But he had a lot of therapy as well. He had a big transition period after he got diagnosed, and he's very knowledgeable about how his mind works, and in turn he can give you a lot of insight into how your own mind works, because everything these two people say you can relate to, and they choose a different topic every week, and yeah, thoroughly absorbing and fascinating. So check that one out. And yeah, I mean, my main one is true crime. I like true crime, unsolved mysteries, murders. I don't have a morbid fascination. I have, how can I put it? I have like an analytical fascination with crime podcasts and listening to the evidence and listening to the theories, and basically it just makes my travel into work and from work just go like that, and sets me up for the day. When I get to work, I'm in a nice place. The other thing I like about podcasts is that they occupy my mind. When I'm listening to a podcast, I can't really think about much else, which is good, because you know, when I'm not concentrating on one thing, lots of things fill my head. But listening to a podcast, I can zone out and I can listen to that and concentrate on that, and I find it super relaxing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know if there are any other people out there with Asperger's that are a little bit obsessed with listening to podcasts. So yeah, thanks for listening, and see you soon.